Hey everyone, Luke here. Now before I talk about the chapter, I just want to make a very quick announcement. I have set up a Discord server. Yes, that's right, Lasherluke's got a Discord server at this moment in time, so I'll link it in the description below. If you want to come and log on to it and just talk to me and just hang out, maybe watch some stuff together, or discuss various shows together, whatever the case may be. Come have just a chill out time in my Discord server. It's Lasherluke's Fun server. Even though I might change the name at some point in the future. But anyway, that's besides the point. Just wanted to let you guys know about that. And for now, let's just dive right into this chapter. Alright, so this will be chapter 210 titled Not One Way. And I wonder if that's going to have something to do with my predictions that I made last week. But anyway, the chapter starts off with obviously the title page where we have Suika and Chrome just dancing, skipping down the road as we see Mount Fuji in the background, which obviously means that this is supposed to be where Ishigami Village is, as we see what looks like could be Ishigami Village in the future, like possibly 20, 30, 40 years from where we are currently in the storyline after Y-Man is taken care of and everything's resolved and the world is back to normal. So yeah, pretty cool title page. But moving into the chapter proper, we get a recap of the events of the last chapter, basically the cliffhanger of like the crew making the suicide run against the Ryan and petrifying themselves, and the rocket they're about to craft is for a one-way trip. As we see hold on a minute. Oh my god, I completely missed this panel when I first read the chapter. As we see what looks like three specks on the moon, which I think is supposed to represent the three characters that will ultimately be going to the moon, or so we think. But anyway, we cut forward possibly like a week after that conversation got going, because they seem to be digging up a lot of the minerals to collect for the aluminium to actually build the spaceship. As Suika points out very poignantly, like, this means whoever goes to the moon will never see them again, which is stuff that I was bringing up in when I was discussing it people on the Dr. Stone Wiki Discord as well. And we see Chrome, who's just like not saying anything, but you can tell that he's thinking a lot. Before we get a funny moment with Yo, in the sense that he snuck away from actually having to do the computer, because he's like, oh, that's hard, I'm just gonna join Nuki and go to Australia to find out where everybody is. But he's like saying like building the rocket is even more grueling of manual labor than it would be to actually build the computer at this point. So he's kind of regretting that he actually came along in on this trip, which is kind of funny on his part. And Kosuke's obviously not sure on the details, and he questions Senku of will they really be turning the red rocks into like the rocket itself. And Senku proceeds to draw a rough roadmap. Now notice that this is a rough roadmap. It's not kind of like the roadmap that, yeah, this is definitely going this is definitely going to be the basis for the body of the rocket. No, it's just a rough roadmap to kind of like get an idea of where they're actually going to go, because he says it's going to take a ton of processing first, which I'm glad that now the series is starting to slow down a little bit here, as we're starting to get into the meaty portions of this arc of actually getting the materials together to actually build the rocket up, because he says that and they'll get their hands on the rocket's primary materials. Now notice he says primary materials, meaning that we'll have some secondary materials and minor materials that we're going to have to come across at some point in the future in order to fully capacitate this rocket into going to the moon itself. But anyway, we see the rough roadmap, which is like red rocks, which is bunsen. Then we have sodium hydroxide, alamine, which obviously becomes aluminium, and then they have copper and magnesium, which go into making dulamen, which obviously goes into making the rocket, but also as well they need the fluorite and they need a crazy bad nasty amount of electricity, which obviously he stole from Gen because it's saying it in Piglet and the Astane amount of electricity, and this obviously gets Kozuki fired up. He's like, this is probably the most fired up he's going to get about something, and he is probably going to have a certain release when the rocket is actually built, if you know what I mean. Karaku goes on and says that all the fluorite is what they will use to dig up in Spain. So she's curious about this is how it's getting used. So I'm glad that she's kind of taking a little bit of interest in science, even though she's not the kind of person to be like as overexcited as some of the other characters like Suika, Chrome, and Kozuki. She's more of like on the like, I don't understand this, but whatever it is, it sounds really cool. But of course, Gen being Gen, saying that it's going to take some brutal labour and patience as always. And yes, it's going to take even more of that because they're not only going to have to build the rocket, but they're also going to have to do a lot of testing, a really bad amount of testing, as Chrome would say. But anyway, going on, Gen notices the actual amount of electricity that was actually written down. It's like, yeah, I'm kind of curious about this because you've written it down exactly like how I say. So what gives with this Senku? And he says, and Senku goes on to explain that since making it up, since making the rocket itself eats up so much power, aluminium is basically canned electricity. And he mentions that the after making the aluminium for the Apollo rocket, the power bill came to 3 billion yen. Okay, how long until we get bills back? Like electricity bill, gas bill, water bill. How long until we get them back, Ryusui? Come on, you know you want to do that. But anyway, Ryusui goes on to say that the only way to produce such a vast quantity of power here in the Stone World, and they confirm that it's a hydroelectric plant before they go on to say, we're hauling these red rocks to a country that's ideal for hydroelectricity. And Suika's like, what country are you actually talking about, Senku? Before he reminds them that it's a country that you guys are all familiar with, like you, Ishigawa, and people, this is a country that you're all familiar with. And you want to know we've got already got a home base and resources there, and how lucky and totally convenient for them that pretty much Japan, more specifically Ishigami Village, is the place that they're actually going to, because it's basically surrounded by water, which makes a whole lot of sense in this regard, that we're all going to be conversing back on Japan. Now, the third thing that I want to talk about here is when Ryusui says, so we're combining the resources from all our cities around the world, as we see, as we obviously get the ones that we've actually been to. So we get Corn City, Super Alloy City, Aluminium City, Map City, and the city in Barcelona. But we also get ones that look like they're coming from the North Pole, the Arctic, and North Pole, Arctic. Yeah, North Pole, the Arctic, and South Africa, which leads me to believe that what Inagaki is actually trying to do here, because there was a comment in this week's Weekly Shonen Jump of the overcoming days, kids were really excited about Dr. Stone this week, and he's obviously still enjoying writing Dr. Stone, even though I feel like he needs to slow down a little bit, and I feel like that's what he's sort of trying to hit here. Is like, yes, the series is going to start slowing down a little bit soon, and I'm going to be adding a few more cities than the ones that were initially perceived, because then not only then like he can expand the story a little bit, but then he can also give more world building and world exploration, and also get more characters that could be introduced. Like, for example, if one of those owls is to South Africa, then that means they could very well be going to get diamonds and maybe even creating a diamond city, which means then we have to have a Hearts, a Spade, and a Clover City. Black Clover reference there for you guys. So anyway, Kaku continues on and says, so you mean it just so happens that it's all going to converge back to their very homeland, which they confirmed that the rocket to the moon is getting built in Japan, which, as we see what looks like a rocket launch center that's being built, which might actually be foreshadowing for what was stated in one of the forums when we had the Q&A, and they were asked like, who's back in Japan, who's back in Ishigami Village, and they gave various answers like it was Kokio, Jasper, Turquoise, those type of people, and Senku had them stay behind because he wanted them to actually build something. So this is probably what he actually asked of them. It's like, hey, can you guys build something that can launch a rocket into space? And most of the Ishigami people were like, we don't know what a rocket is, but we'll do our best. Whereas some of possibly Tsukasa's forces who were revived already know what that's all about. So that's probably the task that they were assigned when they left to go to America. But obviously, with the Second Worldwide petrification then being in stone for over 8 years now, who knows how far the progress they got on that. But yeah, that's probably what they're doing here, because this seems to be a fantasy where you have the rocket launch engine and you have Mount Fuji in the background, and of course the rocket has Senku 11 on, obviously a nod to the Apollo 11 mission. But anyway, we cut to at night time, where we see Ukyo and Senku actually sealing away the Medusa, unless somebody is badly hurt and is in need of healing, and they put it in at like a soundproof safe, because they don't want the Medusa to be relied on for as a cure or for every little bump and bruise. So it is nice that they're actually acknowledging that the Medusa is going to be sealed away, and they're not going to be relying on it all too much. Which leads us to believe that whoever the next villain is, they might not be taken out with the Medusa, or if someone actually gets out of that, because somebody is probably going to get their hands on that Medusa, and even though it's sealed away, it's bound to happen. And yeah, my guess is that Chrome is going to blab his mouth about immortality to everyone, even people that they do revive, because they do actually bring up in the chapter that, especially not among all those 21st century folks who we've gone around reviving. Yeah, that's kind of like someone's gonna find out about immortality that's from the 21st century. That's not part of Senku's crew, and they're probably gonna get that Medusa to use it for themselves. Now, something else that we need to talk about is the fact that the random person in the background in the last chapter that we were all confused about where that guy came from, it was confirmed by the Dr. Stone trivia that was someone that they revived off screen, because they also built the houses off screen themselves. So okay, that makes sense now, and it will make a lot of sense what we're going to be seeing in a few minutes. But anyway, Ryusui goes on and says that Senku, you're going to such lengths to hide such great secret, as he reveals that he knows about immortality. And Ukyo, despite people thinking that he already knew about immortality, obviously his reaction in this chapter is like, what? Which obviously proves that he didn't actually know about it. But Senku goes on to say that the moment Professor Wyman on the moon decides to blast all of humanity, that elixir of eternal life won't mean squat, and they can't waste even a minute before launching this mission. Which, okay, that makes sense, that yeah, they want to get there as quickly as possible. At the same time, we all know what happens, Senku, when you try to do things like really quickly and try to get things done as quickly as possible. They backfire on you. Slow and steady wins the race, Senku. You've got to keep that in mind, and maybe Chrome in this chapter might be able to help you on that. As Senku says that this single petrification device is their one-way ticket on a rocket to the moon, we cut to later on where we see Chrome and Suika on a tower, very reminiscent of Chrome's shed in Ishigami Village, and Chrome is just reminiscing about what Senku was actually saying about the one-way ticket and who will be the three of the crew members to actually go with. Then possibly being the pilot for Ryusui, or possibly Stanley. That's probably one thing they'll do. Like, they'll revive Stanley and be like, "Hey, Stanley, we'll forgive you for trying to kill us if you be the pilot to actually go to the moon." And Sinu will probably agree with that, and maybe Sinu will be the scientist that goes with him. If Stanley is the pilot, then Sinu has to be the scientist. But anyway, as for the warrior, they recognize probably Tsukasa or Hyoga. But he goes on to say that since the scientist is going to be a statue on the moon, the rest of the kingdom themselves probably will never be able to see them again. But which makes sense why Chrome is actually feeling this way, because they have such a connection with each other. And if it's not Senior and Stanley, then it's going to be like Senku and Ryusui, guaranteed. And Chrome has a connection with those two, like a real connection, like particularly when you think back on the Age of Exploration, where he was the one that actually went with them, the first person from Ishigami Village that actually was able to fly, and he saw all these amazing wonders of the world thanks to Ryusui and Senku, and he's not gonna want that, and he's kind of like debating in his mind right now. It's like, I don't know what to do, because the ones designing the rocket are Senku and Sinu, and Sinu's are diehard when it comes to efficiency, so he would obviously be sided with Senku here, and he's sure that it's the best option. Better trust the experts on this, but rather than relying on an amateur like him, and that he has he's got no right to object, and he's like, yeah, an amateur like me, before we see him give quite possibly the most pissed off face that he's ever given in the series. Yeah, so this was pretty much what I expected. Like, I kind of predicted this, that, yeah, Chrome would be someone who would absolutely be like, I do not want this to happen. This is something that I don't want to happen, which keeps in line with Chrome's character, because if you remember back in the Ishigami Village arc, when Senku was going to give himself up to the hydrochloric acid, Chrome was like, absolutely not, you are not doing that, Senku. So yeah, keeping in line with Chrome's character is someone that is someone that's not going to be gonna go along with a suicide plan anytime soon. Before he goes on to say, one way they say, nah, we've all got to be there for the final victory toast. That's the true way we win. That's our happy ending. So yeah, Party Jones was saying this earlier on Discord, and that even though he would prefer a dark ending, yeah, he's saying like, yeah, this is probably where they're going on here. And yeah, this probably means like the actual rocket itself will be massive enough to carry not just a group of 3 people, because like I said last week, to not have Chrome, Suika, Gen, or Kaku in that rocket, it's kind of a disservice to their characters. Suika in particular, because of what she went through, and Chrome himself, just because of how important he is to the series, of being a character that could be on Senku's level, but also have a bit more of a moral compass than Senku would ever have. I'm not saying that Senku doesn't have a moral compass, but his methods tend to be a bit more on the more extreme side, more streak side of things, or the more like radical things, or just downright being creepy about them at sometimes. Whereas Chrome has a much more like soft-spoken approach to when it comes to scientific advancements, and he's able to think outside the box and think of stuff that even Senku can't come up with, such as the water wheel way back when they were discovering how to first make a hydro plant to produce electricity for the Age of Energy, as it was called. But anyway, he goes on to say, nothing to it but to craft it. Gotta work bad and fast to create a return vessel. So yeah, we are getting our return vessel, which means we might actually be going more around the world to collect more things. So I am getting excited for this. Come on, please say next chapter that if we're gonna do the return vessel, then we're gonna have to go around the world to other places, like maybe Russia, maybe China, maybe the UK, maybe. I can only dream. As Chrome is going off on his tangent, we see him just immediately grab Suika and just like freak her out. It's like, we're going to create a return vessel, Suika! And Suika's like, what are you doing to me, Chrome? Before he calms down and starts explaining to her in as much of a calm way as he can when he's like up in her face about this. He goes on to say, I may talk big, but I'm all bark and not much bite. On my own, I barely even know how to spell rocket, which puts me in a tight spot. But you, Suika, you've made that revival fluid all by yourself. We're the freshest science users from Ishigami Village, so we're gonna build the return rocket. So yes, this is something that I was hoping for, that would actually happen, where we'd have some disagreement and some sort of faction going on here, where obviously they're going to be like, no, we're not dealing with this. We're going to build a return. We're going to build a return rocket, no matter what. And this may even lead into having that conversation that I said, where Chrome might say, Ryusuke, you decided the entire skies yourself. Well, how can you do that with a one-way rocket? And Senku, isn't building a return rocket even more exciting than actually building a one-way rocket? And there might lead to some sort of friction between them, and questioning whether, and having them question whether or not Suika and Chrome can actually do this, and then being surprised when, holy shit, they are actually able to pull this off. So that may lead into like the central conflict of this arc, like sort of like maybe a mini civil war over which rocket we're actually going to be building. That'll be quite interesting to see where that actually goes. But one thing I'm really disappointed about is that I really wanted Chrome to say Dr. Suika here. I really wanted that to happen, but I guess she's not quite there yet. But anyway, actually gets a glint in her eyes of like, oh my god, this means we will actually be able to bring them back down to earth. She agrees to help him before asking, are they going to keep it a secret from Senku and them? And Chrome's like, sure are. But yeah, Senku is probably going to find out, and when he finds out, who knows what reaction he might have. So even though Suika is on board with Chrome's plan, she questions that they'll have to learn the ins and outs of rocket starting from step one. Who's going to be our teacher? And Chrome says that, yeah, it'll take patience and hard work. I think a rocket involves lots of tricky maths that we'll need to know. That's step one. But who can school us in the art of calculation and stuff? And of course, the person that they immediately think of is Sai, and they go and start begging him to actually teach them. And this is where we get some interesting insight into Sai. Is that while he was working on his coding at the university, he was also teaching maths, obviously to pay the bills, because everyone has to pay bills sometimes. Even child prodigies, especially child prodigies that have left their family to flee to India. So yeah, it's quite interesting that while he was coding, while he was doing something that he was really passionate about, he was also doing something that he wasn't quite passionate about, but at least had was at least a progeny in it, so he could be as efficient as possible. But he goes on to say, but starting from square one won't be easy, and he wants to see if they're actually serious about that. And of course, they both are serious about that. Now, again, going back to what I was talking about with Pie Jams, we have here with Chrome saying sure are, but we also have bad serious. Now we were thinking that would be quite hilarious and quite awesome if Suika was the one that was saying bad serious in an attempt to kind of like be on a similar level to Chrome at this point, because why else would she be making that face if she wasn't going to be saying something? So yeah, she's probably saying the bad serious, as we see Sai give off like the most wholesome smile of like, okay, yeah, they are serious about this. Now I want to know, have they actually told him why they want to learn maths yet? That's the thing. Have they actually told him how they want to why they want to learn maths yet from him? Yeah, I'm kind of interested if he actually doesn't know, and they're just like coming to bed to him to just learn maths because. So I'm kind of interested on that. But at the same time, I feel like the wholesome smile is like him probably realizing that, yeah, I can't let my brother go. If he knows about them wanting to build the return rocket, he's probably making that wholesome smile to say like, yeah, I can't let my brother go to space only to get petrified and I never see him again. Especially after we start getting our relationship back to normal here. Now, again, this will probably lead to Chrome blabbing his mouth, because it's Chrome. Like when he got captured by Tsukasa, and Kawaka was like, this is Chrome we're talking about here. And everyone was like, oh no. So this might lead to Chrome blabbing his mouth about immortality, and then people who are not part of Senku's crew will actually start trying to get the Medusa for themselves. Maybe that might happen. Plus as well, even though we're going back to Japan, we still have to confront the mysterious light that was on the top of on the top of Tsukasa's old radio tower in Ichigami Village. So that's some sort of mystery that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video when we got to that point. That's still a mystery that still needs to be addressed at some point. But anyway, continuing on to finish off the chapter, we have Senku saying that should be enough to get us up to the moon on a double and confront Y-Man. This is our one-way rocket, as we see Sai tutoring Suika and Chrome in maths, and them going, we've got our own crafting project now. Everyone is going to be there to celebrate our victory against Y-Man thanks to our round-trip rocket, and that's where the chapter ends. And of course, Sai created a book. Sai created a maths book in the stone world. Maybe that's what all the coding was, writing down in those various few chapters. So pretty awesome chapter. Got a lot of character development for Chrome and some nice budding relationship between him and Suika. Because if you remember at the beginning of the series, Chrome didn't really think. I mean, he still valued Suika as a member of Ichigami Village, but at the same time, he didn't see much in her, and he was like, hey, you just stole my magnet and basically snatched it off her. But now he's actually coming to Suika and actually saying, I need your help in this. I need you to be useful to help me, Suika. Can you help that? So it shows how much their relationship has changed through their all interactions in the field of science, which is pretty good and pretty wholesome. Now, whether this will lead to some conversation starting in the next chapter or not, that remains to be seen. Because it does seem like even though they've got the materials ready, that they're still going to be in Australia for quite some time at this point, and we'll just have to wait and see what's actually going to happen and whether or not it's going to be like Senku's team versus Suika, Chrome, and Sai. That's something that we're actually going to have to wait and see, but I'm really looking forward to it. So anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasherluke signing off. Later, guys.